Okay, so what do you do if you're the primary care of your children? You've got an ex-partner who's got a court order for contact, but they don't take up the contact. They're in and out, and they might chop and change, and they drop off the radar for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then they pop up and say, right, I want to see my kids again. What do you do? Look, the good thing about the Children Act is it actually provides for all of this, and it also gives you guidance. One of the 7 things in the welfare checklist is the effect of change on your children. And if you've got a dad, because it's most often dads in situations like this, who has contact regularly and then drops off the radar for 9 months, well, that represents a big change for a child, and that's not in their best interests. Children do best with routine and stability. You don't want your kids standing at the door ready for dad to pick them up, really excited to see him, and he just doesn't show. That's not in their best interests. If there's a court order, you're probably worrying, well, what do I do if I don't keep to the court order? Because I've got a court order that says that my ex is meant to have the kids from Friday at 4 p.m. and he isn't there. Am I breaking a court order? And what happens if in 6 months' time he comes back and he says, well, I want the kids 4 p.m. this week as per the court order, and I'm going to take you to court if you don't do that? You are going to be in an awkward situation to a certain extent. Like I say, look at it from your child's point of view. Your children need routine and stability. Look at it from the court's point of view. If your ex takes you back to court after 6 months because they've dropped off the radar, had no contact at all, and then say, well, I expect the court order to be maintained. If it does go to court, you can quite reasonably ask the question, what's the point of a court order if you get a court order and then you don't stick to it? I'm just trying to maintain stability and routine for the kids. Now, I get it. Sometimes things do happen. People have shift work. If someone, say, for example, in the army and they get deployment, stuff happens. The court will understand that, and so should you. And it's worth explaining that to your children. To a certain extent, that's reasonable. The tricky thing, and I get it because I see the comments and the messages that I get, is people are not sure, well, where's that line? At what point do you say, no, not good enough? Your children need stability and routine, and you can't just disappear and come back and disappear and come back. If I was advising your ex and your ex come back to me, and let me imagine I'm helping your ex for a moment, and he says to me, you know what? I've got a court order for the kids, and I've not seen them for 9 months, and I've gone to her and said, well, I want the kids at 4 p.m. on Friday per the court order, and she said no because it's not in the kids' best interest to keep chopping and changing. I'm telling you, the first question I'm going to ask him is, if contact's in the best interest of the children, why have you dropped off the radar for 9 months? Why have you got a court order that you don't stick to? I mean, you're the one who's made the application. You're the one who's told the judge you want the contact, and you've now dropped off the radar. You're going to be in a bit of a weak position. So, look, I get it. The number of scenarios that how to deal with a situation like this are varied. It could be that you say to your ex, okay, well, I don't think this is really working. Let's go to mediation. It could be you could take the hardline attitude and say, you can't keep just disappearing and coming back and chopping and changing. I think we need to go to a court to get a court order, to get something in black and white. And when you do that, of course, you'll be able to explain that your ex-partner keeps dropping off the radar and coming back. He's going to, like I say, he's going to be hard pressed to explain that one. It could be that you just keep going and do it and chopping and changing, disappointing your kids, when daddy, who's promised that he's going to take the kids away for the weekend and do some really fun stuff, then decides that he's got better things to do. So look, I get it. Worth remembering, however, that courts can't force someone to have contact. I mean, I get it. It's something I hear from resident parents. Well, we get punished if we don't stick to a court order, but my ex won't get punished for not sticking to a court order. I'd say 2 things. Firstly, no one gets punished for breaking court orders. Penal notices are hardly ever enforced. Secondly, would you really want, how would it work? Would you want someone to physically grab your ex, march around to where your kids are and say to him, you care for the kids? It isn't going to work like that. So as a primary carer, I would say, look, act in your child's best interest. Stability and routine is absolutely a key thing for them. It takes 2 to tango, however, and if your ex can't be trusted to stick to a court order, particularly one that he's got, well, he's going to have to ask himself the question, what's the point of having the court order in the first place?